I mentioned we had two really special treats for you, and we saw Brad just earlier. Now that you've all settled in with your mains and you're ready to relax and listen to something incredibly special now. Our guest speaker became the first Australian surfer to win a medal in the Olympic Games. When surfing was introduced in the Tokyo Olympics, he overcame a traumatic brain injury to claim a bronze medal at the 2020 Olympics. His story, folks. His story is one of determination, of strength, and of resilience. Sadly, like many of us, dementia has also had an impact on his family's life. He's here to share his story with us. Would you please give it up for Owen Wright?
Thanks, Steph. All right. Thanks, everyone, for having me tonight. Like Steph said, dementia's touched my family pretty closely. But before I get into that, I wanted to kind of take you on a bit of a journey through some of the highs of my life and some of the lows. And I'm going to start us off with a high, and that's the Olympics.
Here on the east coast of Japan, for the bronze medal, the two-time world champion, Gabriel Medina. From New South Wales in Australia, the 31-year-old Owen Wright.
Owen Wright, up and riding. Beautiful carving turn out of the top there. Driving out of the bottom, another beautiful turn. Confident, seamless surfing.
Medina's up.
Here's a better section. Will he go to the air? Yes, he does. He lands it, lays back. Great surfing. And here he goes to the air. Rotates, massive. Unfortunately, catches the rail. Floater re-entry. Comes around, he's still got room. Beautiful snap there. This is one of the best ones we've seen all day. At the last minute, gets one, goes to the air and completes it.
Fist pump from the Brazilian. Maybe, just maybe, that could be the wave he was looking for. Owen Wright of Australia. He's nearly there. 6 seconds. And he's away. And he's going to take home an Olympic bronze medal.
Yes, the victory lap for Owen Wright. A bronze medal for the Australian. The team are ecstatic.
Babe, you did it!
Bronze medal, baby!
Oh my god!
It's like
You deserved it.
forever and a day pictured this, and it's just like it happened, not the way you expected, but it happened.
Oh babe, I'm so happy for you. I love you.
I couldn't spot everyone on the couch, but I think there's a few of you.
Bali's eating ice cream because you won.
Oh, what's better, Bali? Ice cream or a bronze medal? That's the way. Yeah, it's been a long road.
Oh,
Love you.
nothing.
Love you all.
Bye.
Olympic.
It was so nice of them to share that moment with us. Of course, we caught up with Owen's wife yesterday. That's the only thing little Vali wanted was ice.
All right, next. That claim actually came from our team. That wasn't my idea. But our team was called the Irukandjis, and so that was me pretending to be the jellyfish, stinging my teammates. It looked a bit weird, but yeah, team spirit and all, you know. So that, for me, that was the surfing. Went to the Olympics for the first time, and it became a light at the end of the tunnel for me of a very long road. And to see surfing put up there became this thing that I focused on and fixated on. I was not at all the best selection for the Tokyo Olympics. I'm 6'3", and the waves are typically in Japan about this big. And the way we qualified was through the World Tour, and the World Tour has waves that are like double this roof. So I was their top pick now to send to Japan in this knee-high slop that their coaching staff was knew they had their work cut out for them, Luckily, I was always up for hard work, and we did many sessions that we asked ourselves on the beach in this one particular session, what are we doing here? And my coach, well, I mostly said it. I was like, I don't even know why I'm here. This is pointless. This is clearly like a lost cause. And my coach said, you know what? These waves are so terrible. He didn't even make it out the back at this one session, and he said, we came on the beach, it was howling wind and rain, and he goes, this is what metals are made of. And at the time, it was one of those things where you kind of like, you get a bit of a chill up your spine, you like look at him in your eye and you're like, really? Are you supposed to believe your coach when they say that? No. And so I did believe him, and sure enough, the final day of the Olympics was the exact conditions that we stood on the beach asking ourselves, why the hell are we even here doing this for? And it was a typhoon swell, which was like, you know, completely sloppy conditions, which is why the surfing standard wasn't very high. But it was a moment that like you reflect on, you're like, wow, that session that we did, we persevered, we went out when it was the worst ever, and stuck through it, and it turned out that it was the best preparation you could have ever done, and it contributed massively to paddling out on that last day against two-time world champion Gabriel Medina. I'm a 0-time world champion, and I was going up against the two-time, and he was on a 4-event winning streak. I was on a 4-event losing streak, and I had been eating nothing but losses for breakfast. And so I was heading into that battle against him going, so to get into the bronze medal match, you've got to lose, right? And so I just took this loss and I was like, oh, that's easy. I've been doing that all year. So I jumped into this bronze medal match, and sure enough, Gabby's like on the beach crying because he just lost. And I look at my coach, I'm like, he's not done take this too well, is he? And in the Olympics, if you get a bronze, you get a medal, and if you lose that bronze medal match, you may as well not even show up to anything ever again. and I knew that at all, and so I recovered from my little loss to go into that match, and just a little story. We were in the locker room before we went out, and it was COVID. As you can see, my face is covered, luckily. And then we had these tiny little taped off sections in our locker room, and he decided to sit in my locker room, and he tried to play some type of head game with me, but luckily I just ignored that he existed and decided to get changed pretty much right on top of him. And in that match, he fell off 90% of his waves, and I attribute my change room tactics to that. So that's the high, and so to get you, I'm going to go back to the start of kind of what created that moment for me, and I'll take it right back to the start. And this is my childhood and wonderful family here. I've got a sister, Tyler, by the way, who's a 2-time world champion as well, and she'll be representing Australia at the next Olympics, and that's in Tahiti, but everyone calls it Paris. So, so we're this is my little family, and we grew up with a keen habit of surfing, and that was thanks to my father. And my father was quite the disciplinarian. He looks really nice and friendly right there. But he had us running the streets at about 4:30 in the morning in the dark, practicing Tai Chi, punching the sky, climbing the steps, Rocky type of shit. And we came from a tiny little town, and he was also a vegetarian, and we were a family of vegetarians, and a tiny little south coast town of about 1,200 people that ran the streets in the morning, did Tai Chi, deep breathing, every sport under the sun. But one thing he always impressed on us was to conquer your fears. And one of the stories that's always stuck out with me and is quite interesting that, you know, I always refer back to it, is that I had an opportunity when I was about 7 years old to surf a wave called Aussie Pipe. And it's quite a dangerous wave in Australia. It's over shallow reef. And he took us down there after school one time. We probably begged him, and probably got out of school even. But we went down there one afternoon, and I took a wipeout that I got knocked out, and I lost a chunk of my ear. It's still gone. It's on the reef somewhere. I lost a chunk of my ear, and I was knocked out to the point where I was vomiting on the beach and whatnot. My dad paddles in. Wasn't beach, was on the rocks. My dad paddles in and says, "You've got an opportunity in front of you. You're either going to let this wave beat you, or you can go back out and conquer your fear." And this is at 7 years old, and this is what kind of implanted deeply inside my psyche. And I paddled back out that day and got to conquer my fear. And it was just something that I'll forever take, because it kind of shaped the rest of my career. That was to unfold after that. And after I got home, he was in some deep shit from Mum, because and that also was an amazing time, and it's also unfolded throughout my life. So I'll skip to the next one now. This was when I started to take surfing really seriously for the first time. Not that I didn't do it every day and skip out of school a bunch, but I got to 19 and decided, 18 after I had a few fun years, and I went to my dad, who's quite like I said, disciplinarian, and I said, "Dad, look, I've got these goals. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve. Can you help me to get to this place?" And he said to me, "Mate, all right, sit down. You got to have an honest conversation with me, and you know what's going on, how you're doing this," and got me to basically write down a journal, a diary of how much work I was doing in a day. He wanted me to do 8 hours of work per day, and I didn't care when that was, but that was a requirement for him to put off his work and coach me, and so he did. And so I signed up, and he travelled around Australia with myself, coaching me through these events, and we went to the first 5 events and won every single one of them through his great coaching. Something that I'll be forever grateful for. And I had the goal of qualifying for the World Tour at that stage, and I was still a pro junior. So these events were just pro juniors. And then we went to the QS, and we had enough points by May to qualify myself for the World Tour. And so whilst that was happening, the World Tour decided to change their ruling to let people on six months or halfway through the year because of how quickly I moved through their qualification process. And so at the end of that year, we'd achieved every goal that we'd set out to achieve together. And I snuck in a few trips with my mates in between and didn't work a few of those 8 hours, but I just risked the trouble. But I still got him to sign up to every event despite that. But it really did set me in good stead to know that work ethic and persevering is really something that will get you the results you want in life. And so we made the world tour together, and I say together because we went on tour together around the world. The main shot there is in Tahiti. As you can see, I look quite relaxed there. That's only because I know that I'm close to death. But we had some good highs as well. We went to New York and won the biggest prize purse surfing's ever had in history, and we stole it from under nose of Kelly Slater. Which is fun. He still loses sleep over that, so he still brings it up. But you know, and that's how we started out. We had a great few seasons together, and then we kind of parted ways, and it was time for me to find my own path in life. And yeah, I did, but it was pretty wild. I started surfing bigger and bigger waves over shallower and shallower water, chasing the thrill of that adrenaline. And, you know, this brings me to about 2015. We do 10 World Tour events a year, and I chased 8 swells in between that. So at each break that I had, I chased a 10 to 15 foot swell to some reef location, whilst taking wipeouts and receiving concussions that at the time I didn't know were concussions, which led me to Pipeline at the end of 2015, and I was going for a world title. I was one of 5 guys that were eligible to win a world title that year, and well, my dad didn't come to that one, but I got my sister over, and I sat with my sister before it started, and I said, Tyler, can you just hang around? I think something's going to happen. I was in really good form. I'd surfed so many big waves throughout the year. The last event of the year was at Pipeline, and I thought I was shit hot. I was like, this year is my year. I thought I was invincible, so I asked my sister to stay around because I thought something was going to happen. And I said to her, I don't know what's going to happen, but it wasn't exactly what I thought was going to happen. I made an error and a misjudgment on a wave that was absolutely giant. It was probably twice the height of this room above. And instead of throwing my board to get under this wave, which lets me dive deep down under the water, I decided to just duck dive, which puts you about this far under the water, whilst a 2-story wave lands directly on you. It absolutely obliterated me and knocked the lights out of me, so to speak. And I ended up in hospital like this with a severe concussion and a TBI. So my brain, they said, looked like a blast victim from war, and I didn't really care when they said that, because I was like, yeah, whatever, man. And then they didn't really sink in until I was kind of like, oh, well, like, when can I get out of the hospital and surf the world title event? And they were like, we don't even know if you're going to surf again, mate. And I was like, what? You didn't tell me that. I just feel a bit off. I don't know what exactly you know what's going on here. And they said it could be 5 to 10 years before you're normal again. And it really sunk in, it really hit home, got me pretty freaked out. But it also switched over in me this like overdrive to get out of the position I was, which had been installed from me from young. So, you know, that picture there is at one of the lowest points of my life. I couldn't walk, I could barely speak, I was slurring words, and I couldn't see the left side of the room. And it took about 4 months for those abilities to come back, all the whilst I had post-traumatic amnesia. So I lost my memory of what I was doing and where I was or how I got there every day for 4 months. And so my team around me were incredibly impatient and just incredible people to deal with me saying a few times a day, like, why am I not on tour and where are all my surfboards? As they'd hidden them all and taken them back to the shaper. I look back and I kind of, on the journey and it is hard to talk about, but at the same time, I find it hard to connect to, because I think it was harder for the people around me, whereas whilst I was in that 4 months, I was quite delusional. I didn't understand the full gravity of my injury as I was living it. And so I felt that I was completely normal, to be honest. And that's actually a great trick the brain has, and why I had post-traumatic amnesia. It was hiding most of the trauma from me. And then I call it, when I woke up 4 months later, that was when the real hard journey for me began, which was when reality sunk in. And I had to make the call to the WSL, oh, look, I probably won't be able to compete the rest of the year. That's the first time they'd heard that from me 4 months in, when I was barely speaking or, walking. It was the first time that I had to admit that, yeah, I'm not in a good way. As much as I was admitting that, I was also determined to get out of that place. And my dad drove from Lennox Head down to Gerringong and come and picked me up and took me back out into the ocean. We went surfing for the first time together, paddled out next to me, and first time I went under the water, I was struck down by a knife in my chest. It's anxiety gripping, and I was pretty much choking. And he was right there with me for it, and we just never stopped. We went from there all the way back to the World Tour and won my very first event back on the World Tour. Now, my dad, weirdly, I don't know if he had a crystal ball or something, but he said to me, the very first time he picked me up and took me to the surf, and he was driving me down there, it gives me a bit chills up the spine actually, he said to me, you're going to be a champion again, and you're going to win your first event back. And I was just like, this guy has a bigger head injury than I do. I did not believe him at all the way up until the time I was standing on the podium. I fought battles to come back to this position that I never thought I'd fight before. I was just sometimes just walking an oval with my heart rate at 160 beats, and I was just going for a walk around the oval. And to compete on the World Tour was something that was so far off that I somehow just was allowed to compete. But I competed with the premise and goal of regaining my life. It wasn't a goal to win, it was just to get my life back and regain some form of normal function. And normal function was enough to be number one, which I was extremely thankful for, but I did rub that into my mates that I beat. I said I beat yous with half a brain, but anyway. But yeah, that was fun to rub into him. But in all seriousness, I was not in a good way. My brain was completely overloaded. I had a great coach at the time, and his coaching technique was to tell me every time before I paddled out, every time was to stay on your feet, and that was as simple as we kept it. And there's something to be said for that. No matter how big the task is, sometimes if you just take one step, you can achieve much bigger things than what you think. And that was the goal that we kind of took for the rest of that year, including my neurologist, who just kept. There was times that I forgot after events that I would forget. Well, during events, I was forgetting where I was and what I was doing there, and having big breakdowns. And we decided there was more to gain from life than taking forward steps and taking backward steps. And I kept in the game, and some of those moments created my biggest wins. So it was a big moment that I really enjoyed, and from then it was a big up and down for probably 2 to 3 years. I kind of plateaued with my recovery. I come up against many, I guess, just different pieces of damage in my brain that wouldn't let me compete or do things the way I used to do, until finally I found the right help. And that right help came through a guy called Brett Jaros, and we worked through different patterns of rehab for my eyes, which sounds easy, but at the time I just thought I had a problem with my brain, but it was actually also getting calls from my eyes and also my vestibular system, which were all being knocked around at the same time. So he really worked on those, and we did probably 5 to 8 sessions a day leading into this next clip that I'm about to show you. And it was about the first time that I had passed what they call in the AFL or the NRL, like they let their players return to play. So I'd been competing for 3 years on the world tour without a proper protocol system in place, but nonetheless I was doing it and thankful for that. But I first did the AFL players protocol, and I failed it and got a total of 14% capacity, and you're allowed back on field at 96%. So before this event was the first time that I got 96% and felt like the old competitor I used to be. This should play.
Only needed a 2-5. Next wave for Owen's going to land on Chatty's head. Deep in the pit, a chokes. Owen Wright.
Well, Owen just got an equaliser right there.
And now the battle for priority. Remember, Chatty had to wear that extra wave on the head, so Owen's free to just stroke his way back into the lineup. So then was chasing an 8.95. This is what Owen did behind him.
Owen's going to get the best wave of the heat for sure. We haven't seen any indications from the judges yet, but it's a big set, a bomb set, a leftover from yesterday, perfectly deep. Where does this one go, Joey?
Unbelievable ride for Owen Wright. If he already has 8s and 9s, Bia,
exactly.
Where are we going with this one?
Well, you could be going perfect. It's early in the day to be going perfect. We finished the day yesterday with a perfect score for Gabriel Medina, but everything tells me, by the indication of the 9s we've seen in this heat, that was significantly.
So this picture for me, it marks a lot for me. It's the first time that I felt like the old competitor I was, which I was a bit of a mongrel. I didn't really take a backward step from anyone. I loved the challenge. I love big challenges, and no wave or wipeout was intimidating towards me. Except for this event. It's the first time in my life that I also was that, but at the same time, I was also scared. Scared shitless enough to put a helmet on for the first time in my life and protect my brain just a tiny bit from some of what these waves can do. Now, I look at that and I go, okay, well, like, why did it take me 3 years to put a helmet back on? When clearly I was like pretty screwed in the head. I put it down to, when I came back, I was so focused on reclaiming my life, but also I never wanted to learn from the mistake that I made. I just wanted to be myself again, and that myself was still the person that ended me up in a hospital bed. So I was taking these risks that were really unnecessary. This is probably the first event that I understood how to work with fear in a way that can benefit you, not in a way that stops you, but you can identify fear, listen to it, and say, what here is it that is really striking this fear in me? So I got to learn to read the waves differently for the first time, and also what it did is produce a win which qualified me for the Olympics. Now this is my dad. Looks lovely. He's given me some Beltons, but I tell you what, they were worth it. I got to achieve some dreams thanks to this guy. Now, this was in 2019, and it was at the start of 2019. This was the last event that my dad ever came to support. And I cherish this photo. I cherish this photo because right after Tahiti, my dad got diagnosed with dementia. And as we're all here tonight for dementia, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd just been through a head injury, and I'd just come out of it, and I'd come out of it with strength, and I was back at the top of my game. Hearing that he got diagnosed with dementia and seeing the state that he was in at the time was almost just as hard as a head injury. He's obviously my hero. We went, a lot of dads are, but he went above and beyond for me. And it was something that it really took the wind out of my sails, and that was right before the Olympics. And that is part of the reason why the Olympics meant so much to me, is because not only did I recover from the head injury, is that when I found out this, I went into a bit of a spiral. I lost my bearings, and because he was such a big marker for me, and losing his mind was a good way for me to have an excuse to lose my mind. I didn't get out of bed that much. I didn't train that much. I kind of didn't really care that much. But at the same time, I kind of got to this position, and I went, you know what? He's been there through me for everything, and this is a time that I need to find my own head amongst all of this. Despite how much he supported me throughout my career, now's the time for me to show him that I've got the same in me of what he wished and what he was trying to instill in me. And so that's part of the reason why the Olympics was so big for me, is because I fought my way back from that. Not just fought my way back, but fought my own fight, and achieved what I felt for the first time without his actual guidance, and found my own, I guess, hard-ass disciplinary person inside. We move it on, and after the Olympics, I had to admit that since the diagnosis, I wasn't the same competitor. I was different, and I had to accept that. I was different from my dad, and part of the reason I did my career was because of my dad. He coached me through everything. He lived and breathed the sport as much as I did, and part of that breath was gone. And with that, I didn't feel the need to continue on and persevere through things that I didn't want to. And it sounds that it's a downturn, but it's not. It's actually that I was just starting to find myself and find out who I really was. I really cherished my young family, and I wanted to spend more time with them. My wife has a career in music, and we got to, it was just starting to take off for her. So there was all these things lining up, and at the same time I went to the brain doctors again, and we did a full complete set of scans, and they said, oh look, Owen, look, if you get one more concussion, you're going to face dementia in your old age. And I said, at the time, I said, okay, and just left the office, didn't ask any questions. My doctor didn't know that my dad had the diagnosis at the time. So I just left the office, and I went back in, and I threw it around for a bit, and I was like, mate, do you know what you just said to me? And he goes, I said, because I deal with I'm my dad's carer, and I deal with him every day, and he's living with dementia. And he goes, good, so you know what you're in for if you go get more concussions. Now that really hit home and really sunk in. And so I made the decision to retire at Bells Beach for the last event of my career, to take myself out of the way of potentially more concussions and dealing with dementia myself after dealing with it firsthand, as I currently do. And now I spend my time every day visiting my old man in hospital, who's currently on what they call end-stage dementia, and it is one of the hardest things I've ever seen. And this is when Nick asked me to talk, and I said, mate, look, there's some pretty personal things that I will bring up in this because of what we're here for today. I go in there every day, I talk to him every day. It's not many times that he knows me, and there's definitely not many times that he gets out of bed, which I do give him shit about. But, I've always had that type of humour with my dad, and I refuse to let it go. There's something that I pride myself on now, and is that every time I feel these big emotions is that I go, okay, these are here because I'm incredibly grateful for the person that he was to me and still is, and what he's created. And so I turn up nearly every day to visit him and spread my love to him no matter how he's going that day. And I just want to say, whoever's been touched by dementia and whoever's going through it themselves, there's a strength inside you, and just sit with it, sit with that, and hopefully that can turn into something where you can give back to the people that mean so much to you. And that's a little bit of my journey, and that's where we are at in my life at the moment.
I think wow is probably what a lot of you are thinking. There's serious highs and serious lows, and probably highs and lows each day from now on. But Owen, thank you so much for sharing your story with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Owen has generously agreed to stay up here and take a few questions. I'm sure there's more than we have time for, but I do know that some of you have questions. You keep this mic, Owen, and Keith over here. We'll start over here with you. I think, Phil Wishart, you've got a question. Off you go.
Of course I do. Owen, I'm a very average surfer. I remember we were all in lockdown. We see you winning rose gold, as we call it.
Yes.
Congratulations. I know that you and Tyler are very different people, and you went through your injury and she's gone through hers, and you have different relationships with your father, and he's going through a tough time. For people in the room that have people dealing with dementia, can you talk about how you cope with it and how you deal with family members that have a different relationship and how you can support them?
Yeah, huge. Wow, massive question.
Sorry.
Yeah, I have a lot of siblings, a lot of different views on who my dad was to them. Quite a hard man. I love that. He pushed me. I achieved all the dreams that I could have hoped for because of him. Other people have different opinions. So basically, to deal with the dementia diagnosis is I've had to basically just let my anger out somewhere else about the frustrations on how other people deal with the diagnosis, how they process it, and really come to terms with that. Everybody is so different and everybody processes trauma differently. I've had some of my dad's friends who just will never talk to him again, never want to see him because it hurts them too much. And I've started to understand that on such a deeper level, and it really is important to hold on to if you are either the primary caregiver or the person who is there the most, is to just find that place inside yourself to it's not that you forgive, but it's understanding to how different people process different emotions, and that's how I've dealt with it. I'm not saying that I deal with my dad's diagnosis amazingly. I've gone off the rails and and had my meltdowns and this and that, and but I have been really inspired to turn up, and I try and use a bit of an emotional graph, right? And one side's positive, one side's negative, one side's high, one side's low. And I just try and map out where I am on that in that day to try and help me deal with the roller coaster of every day when you're dealing with dementia. But I don't have it perfect yet.
Owen, thank you so much. We have a microphone on that side of the room, also one over here with me. Just give me a wave if you have a question that you would like to ask Owen about absolutely anything. You can ask him about the surfing career, very insightful stuff about dealing with dementia. I've got to say I had a very shallow conversation with Owen, and perhaps you'd like to share what we talked about in hotel quarantine. We both did hotel quarantine and we both had a similar approach to it. I thought being an elite athlete and an Olympian, you would have come out twice as fit as you went in. What happened?
Oh, I put on about 10 kilos. I think I just got in this space where I like to have fun and I like to work hard but then relax. And so I got into quarantine, I was like, I'm going to relax. And then all my buddies were doing all these workout videos and posting it every day, and I was like, I'm going to do like a meal prep program. I'm going to see how much I can eat all day. So I got to I started off 1 burger and fries, and then I finished up with like 3 burgers and a couple fries and like 7 dips, and and I think I got pretty close to like 6 meals a day. I didn't look like this. But I had a good time. I got out there. I actually did have a great time in there because I ate so much, and I do like eating. So.
And you're Owen Wright. You can do whatever you want. Over here, back of the room, Owen, question for you.
Thank you very much for your story. I'm just curious about your father and even your own experience. Was your father able to accept that diagnosis at first, or at what point, if any, has he been able to accept that?
There's a detail that I left out in his diagnosis. I got him diagnosed in 2019. I took him there. He got diagnosed in 2013 and hid it from us. So that was the way he dealt with it. He didn't want us to be affected by his diagnosis and hid it completely. And so by the time I got to it, there was not much else I could do. Yeah, it was a really interesting thing to find when I went to the neurologist, and he said, oh yeah, his old scan's here from 2013. And I was like, oh my God. So I was a bit annoyed at that, but I don't know, I think what I like to believe is that he didn't want to have it impact us so greatly during the heights of our careers. And I'd have, it's sad to seem like he is, but I don't know if I would have been able to compete the way I did for as many years with knowing it so early. Thanks for the question, though.
Thanks, Owen. If you turn all the way to your left, go left. Keith's over there with the mic.
Hi, Owen. Daniel over here, mate. No question, but I just wanted to thank you for being so real in your story and truly inspiring, and you're so real and genuine, mate. And I just wanted to say that, cherish every moment you have, which you're doing right now, and you're just a massive inspiration. I just enjoyed every moment you spoke about, mate. So thank you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. Gives me strength to keep going in there every day. Thank you.
Up here.
Oh, hi. I can't see you because behind a pole. But I just wanted to know, what was the best things that your friends did to support you while you were going through your diagnosis with your dad?
They take me to like a music festival or something. We'll have like a boys' weekend or something like that, which is great. I always have loved to have fun, and I've always been pretty honest about that. And the boys, they come and got me the other weekend and went to a music festival. I went to Fred again. That was pretty good. So I loved it. So I really, there was some tears and stuff as we're having a few beers, but then we're mostly celebrating as well. And my dad was a big supporter of a lot of my mates as well, and so it's been beautiful to have a few buddies to lean on going through that. Thanks for the question.
Owen Wright, you're an extraordinary human being. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your time and your knowledge.